Afghanistan remains in the news, unfortunately. The withdrawal of troops has been something of a mess. And today we have news of a suicide bombing at the Kabul airport, which has killed, estimates dozens of people, dozens more, maybe over 100 more wounded, including casualties of American Marines and plenty of civilians, and it's horrible. It's awful. The whole thing is a total disaster, and we should still be getting out of Afghanistan. Um, right now on Twitter and in sort of the political, uh, chatter, there's the hashtag Resign now or Resign Biden trending. People want Biden to resign over this botched withdrawal. I think people would want Biden to resign over a smooth withdrawal because a lot of people just would like to put pressure on Biden to resign because this is politics. And people on the right don't like Biden, obviously. Um, I think it's kind of stupid to ask for a president to resign over something like this after 4 years of defending Trump in every single possible way for every horrible, ridiculous thing that man did and said. But that's partisanship for you. There's no logic to it. It's just hackneyed politics. Um, Frankly, I mean, I'd be happy if every motherfucker in Washington resigned. Congress should resign. The generals should resign. Biden can resign. McConnell can resign. All of them. Pelosi, resign. Fire them all. Don't even let them resign. Just fire everybody. But obviously, that's not going to happen. Not anytime soon. I don't think, within the context of this situation that that we that we are capable of fully understanding what's going on in Afghanistan while we sit around on Twitter and fire off hashtags and fire off a bunch of partisan bullshit. Um, this was going to be a difficult withdrawal no matter what. Trump set the withdrawal into motion. He made the deal with the Taliban. He started pulling out troops first, and he set the timeline, which Biden then carried through. Now, we can critique Biden, and I am certainly not one of those Biden fanboys that just wants to defend him against all criticism. I don't even care for Biden. He wasn't my pick. I voted for him because I don't like Trump, but I certainly wasn't like, oh, yes, we need Joe Biden, who's like 180 years old and can barely make coherent sentences to be president. That wasn't really, what I wanted. I just didn't want Trump anymore because I think Trump is a liar and a jackass and just kind of awful all around, and an embarrassment. But a lot of people who think that Trump was just a real great guy hate Biden. I just think really maybe these two old dudes who suck most of the time shouldn't be president. But then again, I liked another old dude, so I was a Bernie guy. I think that it's interesting to see the reactions just because it's so politicized. I don't think most people on Twitter who are tweeting out Biden resign and all this stuff actually care one tiny little bit about the Afghan people or about Afghanistan or really about any of it. It's just the news story. It's what they're hearing on their news feeds. It's what the pundits are telling them, and they're regurgitating it. And the pundits, of course, are getting lots of clicks and lots of traffic off of this, so that's why they care. Nobody actually cares about Afghanistan, and you should look inward and ask yourself if you really actually care that much about Afghanistan, or if this is just the news story of the week that we're all getting fucking outraged about, which seems more likely to me, because that's how the news cycle works. I mean, what is it? It's the end of August, right? It's August 26th, I think. Let's check back in 2 weeks and see if this story is still the most prominent one, or if some trans woman flashes her dick in a women's changing room, and suddenly we've got Proud Boys and Antifa shooting paintballs at each other or something. That seems likely. Or maybe it'll be something completely different, like Kamala Harris will say something and it'll become the scandal of the century. I don't know. We have short attention spans, and meanwhile people are actually dying in Afghanistan. One other thing I wanted to just touch on this subject is the issue of good versus evil, because I've had some readers say, we should have stayed in Afghanistan to fight against evil. I mean, clearly the Taliban are kind of evil, right? From our perspective in the West, Western liberal democracy, Western values, whatever, you could say Judeo-Christian, but Western values, liberal values, we see the Taliban, we see an extremist religious group full of zealots and fanatics, and we want to stop them because we believe in good versus evil. But the thing about it is that the Taliban does too. The Taliban also believes in good versus evil, and they believe that they're good, and they're fighting against evil, against the evil American empire, against the evil decadent West, the hedonistic heathens of the West with their capitalism and their, Christian God and all that stuff. They're conquering white devils, right? I mean, and in a lot of ways, here we are, inserting ourselves into the Middle East, trying to get their resources, trying to exploit them, trying to bring freedom to them after supporting, vicious dictators like Saddam Hussein in the past. I don't think you fight zealots and fanatics with your own brand of zealotry and fanaticism. That just doesn't seem like the way that we should approach that. You can say we're fighting evil, and there is some evil on display. Suicide bomb like that, that's fucking evil, right? Some of the Taliban, they're definitely evil, right? But, from their point of view, this massive, wealthy, powerful military from over the ocean, thousands of miles away, seems pretty evil too. It's just not black and white, right? Like, once you get down to it, if you were born in Afghanistan and raised there to see the world from a whole different perspective than we see it here, and you were raised as a Muslim, and you were raised poor probably, and you were raised to see all this war and bloodshed come from these foreign powers, whether that's the USSR or the USA or whatever, you would see the dynamic of good versus evil quite differently. Now, in terms of just the withdrawal, I think, just like everyone else thinks, this was a total clusterfuck. Biden definitely screwed this up. The general screwed it up. How did they screw it up? What did they do wrong? I just watched that South Park episode with Captain Hindsight, and it feels like this is the game we're playing right now, with a whole bunch of armchair generals and a whole bunch of, people who a few weeks ago had nothing at all to say about Afghanistan and didn't even know that Kabul was its, capital city, and had no idea how many troops we had positioned there, probably never heard of the Trump deal. All these people are like, we should have done this and we should have done that, and it's just Captain Hindsight.
You see those windows on the right side? They should have built fire escapes on those windows for the higher floors, then people could have gotten down. And then on the roof, they should have built it with a more reinforced structure so a helicopter could have landed on it. Yes, of course. And then you see that building to the left? Yes, they shouldn't have built that there, because now you can't park any fire trucks where you really need to. Well, looks like my job here is done. Goodbye, everyone! Thank you, Captain Hindsight!
Okay, cool, we should have done things differently. Let's make Biden resign because of it. It's so transparently disingenuous. Could it have been handled better? Probably. I don't know. Do you guys know how it could have been handled better? Are you good at directing military stuff and evacuation orders and all that? In hindsight, yeah, it seemed pretty obvious that it was fucking bad. But we didn't know what went in. We don't know what went into that. All the planning, all the things that could have gone wrong, that maybe people didn't even realize would go wrong. Following this timeline, trying to follow the timeline set up by the Trump administration. Obviously, when you withdraw troops, when you withdraw people from a nation, there's going to be a power vacuum. There's going to be room for, terrorism and insurgency and all these other things. The Taliban was going to come back no matter what. We knew that. Biden did send in 5,800 more troops, and while they're there, that's when this terrorist attack happened. The terrorists are going to wait for a moment like this when things are in motion, when there's vulnerabilities, when people are scared to make an attack. That sucks. It's awful. It's fucking evil. But you telling me that Trump would have handled it better, or whoever the theoretical next president would be, or 20 years down the line we would have handled it better? Basically, our choices were a messy withdrawal from Afghanistan, or just staying there indefinitely. And I guess if you want to just argue that we should have stayed there indefinitely, just argue that, because I don't think there was ever going to be a withdrawal from this country that was handled really well. Like, the only thing I can think of is that we could have done like a fake withdrawal and like pretended to leave, and when all the Taliban came out, we just like sent in bombers and like planes and just blasted them as they drove across the country, you know. But I don't know the logistics of that, and that's probably a war crime. So, I don't know. You know, I think Biden. I think Biden is probably too old and not fully there to be president. And if that is the case, eventually that comes out that he is not really like Reagan in his final years was probably not fully there. I think if Trump wins again, I don't know that he'll be fully there. I think that maybe these are all just people that are too old anymore to be president. We should start maybe shooting a little bit younger. Like Obama was a good age. George W. Bush was a good age. He just wasn't very smart. It's a shame that Obama didn't just get us out of Afghanistan and just had done with the whole thing at that point, you know. But them's the breaks. That's how it goes. So that's my brief thoughts on the matter. I think that it's a lot of politics as usual, hyperpartisanship, all this resign crap. At the same time, I don't know that I trust that Biden is fully in charge or fully aware of what's going on. I just don't know. I mean, nobody really knows at this point. He's like 800 years old, so, you know, doing pretty good for an 800-year-old, though. All right. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Still going for that 7,000 subscriber count. Much love. Peace.
What seems to be the problem? It's that BP oil rig, Captain Hindsight. It drilled into a marine sanctuary, and the environment is being poisoned.
If we can't stop it, the spill could reach New Orleans.
All right. You see where that rig is drilling? Yes. It's in too deep of water. They shouldn't have drilled in that deep of water, because now they can't get machines deep enough to fix the spill.
Aha!
Yes. Now, if it's a valve that ruptured, then what they should have done is installed a backup valve in case that valve broke. I believe they did install a backup safety valve, Captain Hindsight. Right. Then they should have had a backup safety valve to that backup safety valve.
My God, he's right!
My work here is done. I'm off to find others in need. God bless you, Captain Hindsight! God bless you!